Today we're going to be talking about diagnostic processes and how to go about diagnosing a problem with your vehicle, that is. So, in order to start your diagnosis, you need to know first what the customer's concern is and what the vehicle is doing. Because it's not always the same. You need to know, is the customer having an issue when the car's cold, when it's warm, how long it's been going on, and then you want to start your diagnosis because you need to know what the customer is having an issue with before you can even dive into a diagnosis, at least for the most part. So, with that being said, something like the car runs rough and the check engine light is on. So, in order to diagnose this, you want to start by first verifying that the car does run rough, find out how long it's been doing this, and then go from there. So once you know the information of how long it's been doing it, when it started, and when it does it, then you can dive into your diagnosis. And something like this, you'll start with the basics. What faults are present? Has it had spark plugs replaced? Does it have bad fuel? Is it misfiring on a single cylinder? Does it misfire only when cold or when it's hot? Once you find out that, then you can start diving into deeper diagnosis. So if you just check the faults and there's only misfire codes, and then you can verify that the car is running rough, then you want to do some basic steps to prove what's going on with the car. If it's something where the spark plugs are very easy to get to, you maybe want to pull a spark plug out and visually inspect them and see, do they look physically okay. If they do, then maybe you want to swap a ignition coil with a different cylinder and then swap a spark plug with another cylinder and see if the misfire stays on the same cylinder or if it moves to where the spark plug is or if it moves to where the coil is. And if it does this, then you know that the misfire is either going to be the coil or the spark plug. But if it stays the same, then you go on to a deeper diagnostic step, like, say, doing a compression test. And if that gets you nowhere, then maybe you need to do a running compression test or a leak down test and see where the problem in that cylinder is. There are varying things that you can do when you're diagnosing rather than just throw the biggest number of parts at it you can. Throwing parts at the car is never going to fix a car. It might cure the problem, but you've never actually fixed a car if that's all you're doing is throwing parts at it. In order to properly diagnose and repair vehicles, you need to understand what you're doing. And if you don't understand what you're doing, you're never really going to fix the car. With that being said, follow a good process. Start where you know the most likely culprit is and go with that. Don't go with the most difficult thing, go with what's easiest. If it's most likely going to be something like a blown fuse, start by looking in the fuse box. Make sure all the fuses that are supposed to be there are there. Make sure all the fuses are good, not just the ones you think need to be checked, but check them all. Because you might be wasting time if you don't check all of them. Because on these modern vehicles, a lot of systems are related, and a blown fuse might not be the one you think it is. And a lot of people tend to try to do DIY repairs, and maybe they pulled a fuse out and didn't tell you. So you want to go and check that too. Make sure all the fuses are present and are where they're supposed to be. If it's not something like a fuse, maybe it's something simple like a spark plug. Check your spark plugs, make sure they've been replaced. Follow a good process and you'll be way more successful way quicker. But anyway, that's just what I want to say about diagnosing vehicles is, make yourself a good process. Follow that process every time. I've been doing this a very long time, and even I have failed on my process a few times, and every time I've failed to follow my own process, it has cost me time and a lot of extra effort that I didn't need to expend. And every single time I have failed to follow my own process, I feel stupid for not doing so because I could have saved myself so much time and so much effort by just doing what I know that I should do. But sometimes you get in the mindset if you listen to the wrong person when you're starting out this problem, and then you find yourself digging way too deep for something you didn't even have to do. So, when you're diagnosing, build yourself a process, follow that process every time, and you'll be real happy with what you got. Anyway, that's all I have today. Thanks for listening to my little mini rant here about diagnosing. Hopefully, it gives you a little bit of clarity on diagnosing vehicles and gives you a better method of diagnosing. I know I really didn't say specifically how to diagnose anything here on this particular thing, but just more about following a process. Make sure you go with the easiest solution first and the most likely, because most of the time, the easiest and the most likely is going to be what you find. Everybody out there that works on vehicles for a living has had that one time where there's been something that's just absolutely crazy that was wrong with the car, and you still talk about it to your friends that you work with. Hey, remember that one time that that weird thing happened? Well, don't always go for that. The reason it was that one time is because it's probably going to be that one time for a very long time. It was just an odd thing that happened, and most likely it's going to be a one off thing. So always start with the easiest solution and work your way out from there. And again, this is all I have today. Thanks for listening. I hope some of this helps you somehow, and I'll try to make some more specific type of diagnostic videos in the future. But thank you. Please like and subscribe. Help me build my channel, and I'll catch you next time.